Which one of these two is the best camera phone? We've got the Oppo Reno 10x Zoom Edition versus the Huawei P30 Pro. Photo, video, zoom, 4K, nighttime, absolutely everything you want to know about these two camera phones in one place. Sit back, relax, enjoy it, and watch to the end. All right, the glasses are out, the hat's on. It can only mean one thing. It's a camera test between the Huawei P30 Pro and the Oppo Reno 10x Zoom Edition. I've got the selfie cameras on now. I'm trying to walk as steady as possible because I know the stabilization isn't going to be that great. I've got them on 1080p and everything else is just on auto settings. Now, of course, these two cameras go head to head because of the zoom that they have. But I also want to focus on the main cameras as well, because if you do buy the phone, it may be because of the zoom capabilities, but we know that actually, more or less, we're going to be using the main cameras the most. And if they're not very good, then should you really be buying the phones? Anyway, we're going to test it, so let's go. All right, let's just do a little walking test of these two cameras. Now, these are both on 1080p, and the colors are all on normal settings. Check out for colors, check out for exposure, check out for stabilization as well, because I'm just holding them in my hands. Also, I'm talking from behind and filming in front of me, so check out the audio as well, because depending on what camera you choose, it might choose a different microphone depending, so the audio might just sound good or bad depending on where the microphone is. The Huawei has two microphones, one on the top and one on the bottom. The Oppo Reno, I think, has a microphone on the back, and it could well have some on the top and bottom as well. So just listen for the audio on those. Now, it's really difficult to tell you what the finished video would be like, because what you see on the screen when you're recording and what actually comes out of the camera after it's been processed is entirely different. What I can say is they both look really stable at the moment. Maybe the Huawei appears to be a little bit more stable than the Oppo, but again, once that video has finished processing and comes out and gets edited, those results may differ. They both look really great at the moment. You can't really see a difference when you're looking at them on the screen. Side by side images, you'll find out which one took it after a couple of seconds. The colors on both of these are so similar, and really I couldn't choose which one was better or worse than the other. It's really down to personal preference, and in fact you really can't tell the difference between the pictures out of these phones. Unless you knew which one took it, you couldn't really decide. They are really similar in the camera department. Let's check out the zoom. Ultra wide into the main camera, into 5x zoom on both of these. That is the extent of the optical zoom. 10x zoom. Let's just go in. 50 versus 60x zoom. Let's check out the zoom again. Ultra wide. Now going into the main camera and then into 5x zoom. Wow, these are literally identical. They are so similar that it's really impossible to say one is better or worse than the other. They both give great looking images. All right, it's super busy today in Huaqiangbei, but anyway, I'm using the back camera on both of these to film myself. When I do this, I always use the ultra wide camera on the Huawei because it just gets so much in the shot and it's just so useful. But here's the thing that I found out once I got the Oppo Reno. It has an ultra wide camera, but it doesn't do video on ultra wide. Ultra wide for video is such a great feature, especially if you want to vlog or you just want to take videos of any decent quality, because you know that the selfie camera isn't good enough. And having a ultra wide camera do video is just so useful, and the Oppo doesn't have it, which is so strange because it has an ultra wide camera but you can't do video. Are Oppo going to give me this option maybe in a software update or something like that? I'm not sure, but it's a glaring omission in my opinion. Having an ultra wide camera just gives you such a cool look, and I use it a lot. The main camera and zoom cameras on both of these phones have optical image stabilization. The ultra wide cameras on both of these phones do not. The camera setup on both of the phones is virtually identical, so it's a real big miss from Oppo that you can't use the zoom functions or the ultra wide functions during video. At 5 times zoom, the difference is not as noticeable, but if you go into 10 times zoom on both of these phones, you can really see a big difference. Notice how the image on the Reno has essentially fallen apart. You can see a lot of noise in the image, whereas the P30 Pro's image is actually still usable. It's still sharp, and you could put that amongst some other footage and people wouldn't know the difference. But look at the image on the Reno. During video, the zoom is digital and it shows it is very, very noisy. And also you can't zoom out to ultra wide, whereas on the Huawei, you can. I didn't notice any real difference between autofocus on either of these phones. I think pretty much every phone has good autofocus these days. And if you do want a blurry background, you can use portrait or aperture mode as it's known on the P30 Pro. This is a Mandarin soda Americano. It is delicious. When you shoot 4K video on these phones, the color saturation is really boosted. You can just see how red everything is. Red seems to be a problem color when you go into 4K on these. But again, if you use zoom, even on 4K, look how the Reno image falls apart. It gets extremely noisy, and compared to the P30 Pro, it's nowhere near as sharp. The actual camera app on the Huawei feels a lot more professional than the Oppo. The Oppo feels a lot more centered towards just consumer users, rather than the Huawei gives me a lot of options to change things, change settings, and also take video and photo in more of a normal, subdued, raw type format. I like that because I edit images, but you may be different. You may like the convenience of just the Oppo giving you the finished product and giving you more options in terms of having to change the colors. I have to do that myself if I want to do that on the Huawei, which isn't a problem for me. Again, that's just personal choice. Overall, I would say that the Huawei is a more robust camera phone. It has the ultra wide for video. You can also shoot raw images as well. Again, not a big thing for 99% of people, but for me personally, shooting raw images allows me to edit them afterwards. It's good for me, but not great for everyone. The Oppo is really simple to use and definitely a very fun phone, but certainly the biggest thing for me is no video on the ultra wide camera. The camera apps across both of these phones are very different, but depending on how you want to use the phone, you might like one or the other. Of course, they both have video options, photo options, and portrait options in the quick menu there. But you can see the Huawei has a lot more that you can choose straight from the quick menu. If you want to choose those options on the Oppo, you have to press that left sidebar, whereas on the Huawei, they're down at the bottom, and you can go to the More tab and you can see a lot more options from there. The extra settings from the Oppo don't really give you anything over and above just normal shooting. I'd have to say that the Huawei just makes it a little bit more convenient to choose things because they're all down there at the bottom. The Huawei also has an AI camera that you can toggle on and off, whereas on the Oppo you can change the color settings, but there's no specific AI feature. And you can quickly have a look at all the different color options that you get on the Oppo, which actually on the Huawei you don't get this many. Moving on to nighttime shots of these two. The first one is normal camera mode. The second shot is night mode. I was actually really surprised how well the Oppo Reno held up against the P30 Pro. The P30 series is renowned for being the best night mode shooter, but these Reno images look every bit as good as the P30 Pro. maybe you could just give it to the P30 Pro on this tree image, but the Reno images are really great. And this one, I had to do it. Right, we'll end using the Oppo Reno. So, I've had a lot of fun using this phone today. It is a really great phone all round. Now, on video, I'm gonna have to say the P30 takes it. The zoom just retains a lot more detail when you're using the P30 Pro. And also you can use the ultra wide as well on video. So I'm gonna have to give that portion to the P30 Pro. But when it comes to photos, they are indistinguishable. I really love both cameras. On zoom, on the main camera, on ultra wide, on photo, they're the same.